Good morning, everyone. Center for Responsible Business is hosting its flagship event this year, titled India and Sustainability Standards. Each year, ISS brings a group of diverse stakeholders to engage in meaningful dialogues and develop actionable roadmaps. We believe that integrating sustainability principles will help future-proofing business. This year, ISS happens from 13th to 15th of November under the theme Sustainability 2.0, Leveraging Opportunities, Balancing Trade-offs and Navigating Pitfalls. And in this ISS conference, we have a session on mangrove stewardship. And the key topic of the section is beyond plantations, building synergies for healthy mangrove ecosystems, thriving coastal communities, and building a robust value chain around mangrove ecosystems with lessons from the Sundarbans. Today, we have Ms. Ajanta Dey, Joint Secretary News, and ma'am holds a lot of titles, and it will be best that ma'am explains all the titles to us. So, first of all, from the CRB team, welcome ma'am to the session.
Thank you very much, Rajat, and happy to be part of this event and this journey.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, we will start this interview with asking you a few questions about news and the work that it has done on the last 30 years. So, can you briefly tell us about the work of news, that is nature, environment, wildlife and societies? So, we can make this abbreviation.
Yeah, so we are Nature, Environment and Wildlife Society. The acronym is NEW, and since 1991 we are working for nature conservation. So basically we are looking at a planet which can have the functional ecosystems, because that's where we are dependent on all our resources. So the ecosystems should be functioning so that we have a sustainable planet. So that's what we are working for, and our main pillars are wildlife conservation and habitat and species conservation, sustainable natural resource management, ecology and environmental conservation issues like wetlands, landscapes, and working very closely with the communities, awareness and policy dialogues also we do a lot. So basically on these four pillars we are working for nature conservation for a sustainable planet.
Right. So ma'am, you've explained your journey over the years. So what are the key projects that News is working right now? And can you tell a little about your association with CRB?
Yes, actually biodiversity is our focus area, because you know that triple planetary crisis, the United Nations has already declared one of the climate change, the pollution and the biodiversity loss. So we are working on all these aspects with biodiversity is one of the main focus, and climate change, gender as cross-cutting issues, looking very closely at the communities which are dependent on these vulnerable ecosystems. So this is how we entwine and the projects and our programs, and then try to create impact at the grassroots level. And here I would like to say that the journey with CRB started in a dialogue when we were looking for partners who would like to promote sustainable business, because the vulnerable ecosystems where we are working, we are doing sustainable natural resource management with the local communities, and that creates a certain value chain, and that value chain needs to be understood by the investors, by the customers, by the people at large, and how we can promote these sustainable business chains is what we are looking for in partnering with CRB, because they have a lot more expertise and experience in this sector. When we come from nature conservation backgrounds, and when this business acumen is integrated with it, I think it's the best that we can look forward, because we have to invest in nature-based solutions, and that is the sustainability that we think is will be the paradigm of the next decades and next coming generations to adopt. So the dialogue should start immediately, and we have lessons from Sundarban that can be looked at from a different lens and try to understand the successes, the gaps, and then build synergies along. Like rightly you said, as a nature conservation practitioner, we alone cannot do anything. It has to be every bit of the planet who has to get engaged in understanding the different perspectives that the present crisis has put on to us and how we respond to it.
So, ma'am, coming to the session that we were, so this year you're hosting a session on mangrove stewardship. So we wanted to know, like, what can participants and viewers expect from your session this year?
Actually, you see, when we talk about nature-based solutions, we still don't believe that really these solutions exist, or is it something like on the books and papers that we learn? What are these? Does these solutions really exist that can create certain impacts? Well, in Sundarban, we have created and working on those spaces where the nature-based solutions have been proven, and how they're creating the bioshield with mangroves, and how over a long period of time the communities are engaged with it, developing mangrove stewardship. Why they are protecting it? Because we are facing the storms and cyclones, the climate change. So they understand that this bioshield actually helps them to dissuade and dissipate the wind and the wave energy. And also the fish, crab, honey, tourism that all these mangroves bring, the ecosystem services that it generates, the communities get part of it, and the value chain that comes out of it, we are trying to integrate the mangrove stewards into there. And this is how we are working to find the nature-based solutions, integrating science, because it's a lot of scientific acumen that are required. Of course, it's not rocket science, but scientific acumen are required to think innovatively, in a different path, in a different way, to find actually that the nature-based solutions really exist, and how the communities can get benefit of it, how policies can develop, and how businesses can be intertwined in it, so that, like I said, the investing in nature becomes the order of the day.
Right. So, because you already mentioned a lot of challenges, right? So, we want to understand when it comes to mangrove conservation, what are the key challenges as of today that comes to your mind?
Actually, with the climate change and the very difficult rainfall patterns, the phenology of mangroves are changing, the dynamics of the riverine systems are changing because of the lack of freshwater flow. And as you know, that the mangroves are very, very adaptive ecosystem. They are very adaptive plants because they happen to be there when the marine ecosystem is gradually transcending into the terrestrial ecosystem. So the mangroves fall in that transient zone. So they are very adaptive. So for them, when the climate change is happening, sea level rise is happening, salinity is increasing, that is also affecting them. And when the glaciers are melting, freshwater flow from above, the rivers are being obstructed or disrupted due to many activities. Maybe a dam has been constructed, maybe the rainfall pattern has changed and there are very incessant rainfalls or no rainfalls. The changing pattern of rainfall, these are affecting the freshwater flow from the above. So they are at that point of, I would say that transient zone where they are getting the brunt of both the systems, from the seaside and also from the freshwater side. So here you will need to understand that how the changing climate and all these factors which help in the survival and the growth of the mangroves are affecting it.
Right. So, ma'am.
And also I would like to add one point, Rajat, because the way the civilization has developed, coastal regions are very important areas for development
Right.
per se, the
Right.
usual development processes that we have. But that development is creating a lot of anthropogenic stress on the mangroves, like aquaculture, which has been practiced with total conversion of mangrove lands into aquaculture, or shrimp factories that have come up. Basically, those are industrial ways the farming is now being done. So we need to understand all these development as usual codes where it is affecting this important ecosystem which is actually acting as the resilience of the coastal ecosystem. So I think that these two factors we need to understand very well.
Sure, ma'am. And so you explained us the challenges in the ecological sphere. So since a lot of our work, both CRBs and news, we work in the social sphere as well. What are the key challenges on the social side that, according to you, is? It could be anything from building value chains or supply lines in the community and
challenges, again, I would say climate change is the major challenge, because people in the coast are trying to adapt and mitigate to climate change, and in this process, how we develop the supply chain, how we develop the livelihood and security of the livelihoods and the life there in a different code other than development as usual, going as usual, is what we have to think. That is why investing in nature is becoming very, very important, and investing in communities.
Right.
Because ultimately what we are looking at is social well-being,
right.
human well-being.
Right. Understood, ma'am. So basically, like as you said, investing in communities is important, and you need multi-stakeholders approach, right? And in the ISS flagship event on macro stewardship, we are bringing together a wide range of stakeholders, right? Stakeholders from governments, different departments, the private sector, the embassies, etc., so on and so forth. So I wanted to know, like, since we have a diverse panel, we'll be having a diverse panel talking about these issues. What do you think will be the key takeaways that happens post session?
I think the synergy is very important, because what I understand working in this sector, nature conservation, is that it is a very multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary area. No one person has the ultimate solution. So stakeholder involvement, building synergies, partnerships, and investing in nature, investing in communities together, so that 1 and 1 doesn't make 2 but 11 is what we should look at. Right. So that these partnerships multiply the effects, and each one can act as a multiplier of the theme that you are talking about, the work that we are doing. Together we should work in a multiplier mode. So that's what I look forward to this session.
That's great. So any 3-4 actionable points that you think that post session we might be able to take forward?
Yes, I think first of all, trying to understand the Sundarban landscape and do a very good value chain analysis, so that how the value that the ecosystems are generating there, the ecosystem services that are generating here, can be translated and as products, as serviceable and services for community at large who are living in the societies, urban places, other areas, also at the policy level. So if you tell me that 3 to 4 takeaways, firstly I would say that scientific pursuit for restoration, we have to go beyond plantation or like just doing as usual. So we have to look into a long-term sustainability planning, and number 2, we should have platforms created where people can interact, because as I said, it's multidisciplinary, and case studies has to be brought up so that all these learnings can be on a common platform, and people can learn from these journeys and also understand the gaps because all is not success. There are also a lot of gaps. We need to work together.
Right.
So this is very important, that working together, creating the milieu for working together on partnerships, maybe on various multi-stakeholder platforms is what I look forward, and that should be the key takeaway.
Great. That's a lot of insights from you, ma'am, and I hope that we'll be able to have those takeaways that you mentioned. And also, like ma'am, so we have concluded the first part of our interview. So, and now we are having a separate session because it's a fun activity basically. So it's called Finish the Sentence. So what I'll do is, I'll actually start with the sentence and you have to complete it.
Okay, I'll try.
So yeah, and it's all related to your area of work, and I'm pretty sure like you're gonna do an amazing job. But I'll start with the first sentence. The biggest challenge for mangrove conservation today is dash.
Understanding impacts of climate change.
Right. That's a very short session answer. That's very good. So, ma'am, the next question. In the last 10 years, mangrove ecosystem
will survive. They will survive very well. Only we as Homo sapiens need to take care. We need not destroy them.
So you're saying in the next 10 years, mangrove ecosystems will survive. So that is a very optimistic person, and I'm glad that we have optimistic voices from the ground. The third one thing most people don't realize about mangroves is dash.
Is that they are a very adaptive species and they need care. Because, as I said, we need to understand that they are in a transient zone. So they are in a place where the marine ecosystem, the saline waters are mixing, also the fresh water is mixing. It's a brackish water zone. So it needs care and love, understanding, passion, that they are really our soldiers of the coast.
Right, that's very bold statement, very heart-touching statements. So, and now we come to the word part. The most exciting thing about working in mangrove conservation is dash.
Is to understand the excellent adaptive capacity. That how they are when it is saline, they are evolving with the different species. When it's like a very huge waves, they have different root structures to dissipate the wind, the wave energy. Then they have to bear fruits, so they have adapted viviparous germination. So it's a unique adaptation that we see in the mangroves and that we have to learn. Because in the coming days, the Homo sapiens as a species also need to adapt to a lot of things which they have not done earlier.
Right.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And they always live in communities. You cannot find one mangrove species. So that's also a learning that if you have to live together, you have to live in a community. Homo sapiens also has to learn that. So we need to learn a lot from the mangroves.
That's a key takeaway. We as people have a lot to learn from the mangroves and vice versa. Very nice, ma'am. So basically, now we have spoken about the mangroves. So let's now talk about businesses. So a key takeaway for businesses in investing in mangrove stewardship should be dash.
Look at the shrimp business, honey business, the paddy, the fish that is grown there, and how the post-harvest management, the natural resource management can help secure the life and the livelihood of the people there for larger sustainable goals to be achieved.
That's a interesting takeaway for businesses to invest in mangrove stewardship. And if you are any businesses who is listening to it, have consider takeaways from ma'am. So ma'am, we now, and it has been a very eye-opening session for me, and I've been able to learn a lot, like a lot of takeaways. Now we're coming into the final section, which is myth versus fact. So basically, what I'll say, I'll repeat. I'll say a sentence. So you have to tell us whether that's a myth or a fact. So it's kind of like a mythbusters / fact checker. So basically, the first one. Mangroves only thrive in tropical climate. Myth or fact?
It's a myth because they also survive in the subtropical regions. So in between, around from the equators to the tropics, the two sides, the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, subtropical regions, they survive.
So yeah, I'm just curious about one more thing. Are there mangroves in temperate ecosystems or
No.
similar?
They need the sun rays very strongly to break down the leaf litter dynamics and the detritus food chain.
Right.
The mangrove is characterized by the detritus food chain. So we need a very strong sunlight is the source of energy there.
Right. So they can only be found in the
Subtropical regions.
Right. So another myth that we have, there's always this debate between green and blue infrastructure, right? Like what should be the right thing? So the myth is that mangroves are less effective than man-made structure in preventing coastline erosion.
So well, mangroves have proved it. Now our irrigation department in very many areas, nature distribution is coming like that because it was 4 meter our embankment, then 5 meters, 6 meter. Last in Yash, 7.2 meters the waves inundated from above. So how long will you make it? And it's not Netherlands that you are buying land from the sea. It's a very dynamic delta, which a huge river waters are coming from the Himalayan region and mixing into the Bay of Bengal. It's a very, very dynamic hydromorphological system. So here they have proved again and again that they are the nature-based solution. They are the bioshield, the real soldiers of the coast.
Interesting. So, ma'am, another myth that we have is you have to say whether it's a myth or a fact. Mangroves can store more carbon per unit than terrestrial forests.
Yes, because almost 4 times it stores carbon more than the terrestrial ecosystems. Because in the terrestrial ecosystems we have taproot systems, but here the lateral branching of the roots, the entwine, the way they live there, and the pneumatophores, they extend to a large area. So below ground biomass, soil carbon contributes to a huge extent to this carbon sequestration mangrove leaf litter. So all these contribute to a lot in this huge to be considered it is as one of the most carbon sequestering species in this world.
Right. And also, ma'am, we now come to the final question of business versus fact. So the final question is: mangroves help protect freshwater ecosystems.
Yeah, because as I said that they are in a position where they are in the brackish water region where the freshwater ecosystem mixes into the marine ecosystem. So all the pollution that is created, cities have been built beside the rivers to take along civilization, but we have continuously polluted the rivers. So the mangroves are acting as those pollutant filters, who are natural filters, I would say, who are making the way for clear offshore waters. So they are a very, very important source of preserving the freshwater resource. And also in the islands of Sundarban, when you go, if they have a very good bioshield, there is no problem of inundation. So all their freshwater inside is protected. So rainwater harvesting, tubers, all are protected if the bioshield is there.
Right. So with this we come to the end of our session. And I will tell you, ma'am, it was a pleasure talking to you and hearing a lot of your insights and a lot of anecdotes, which I really enjoyed, as mangroves as soldiers and how they help in protecting the ecosystems. And we learned a lot from you during the session, and we hope that we can bring this knowledge that you have into the ISS to the India and Sustainability Standard Conference in November. And we hope to see you and news there, along with all the other stakeholders, and we hope we'll create actionable outcomes that we can take ahead.
Yes.
So thank you so much ma'am for joining, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you again, and I look forward to the experience sharing, and so that we can come out with really actionable points for sustainability of the planet.
Sure. So with that, we come to the end of the session, and thank you all viewers for tuning in.